Hi, it's Dan. I'm really excited about this week's episode with Tracey. So welcome, Tracey. Thanks for coming on.
Great to be here, Dan. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I know loads of people are going to be fascinated to hear your story. So people have actually been asking me to speak to you already. So that's always a good sign. So I don't know if you don't mind just starting as far back at the beginning as you like and then just talking through your journey. That would be amazing.
Okay, so my journey is as a premature baby born at 26 weeks, weighing £1.13 to a single mum who had a very nice life and suddenly discovered she was pregnant. Being born at 26 weeks 54 years ago, God, I feel old when I say that. No one expected me to survive, so there was a little or no attachment, and I spent my first 6 months in an incubator. And then came out, and my grandma looked after me and my mum, and then sadly my grandma passed away and we were left kind of homeless and destitute, and because my granddad had been having an affair with another woman who was younger than my mum, so of course she didn't want a 3-year-old and a 21-year-old in our home, so we were evicted from the family home, and we had a very troubled upbringing from there on, really. Lots of struggles. I never went to school because I was sickly, and my mum didn't really know how to survive without the support of her family. So I was involved in petty crime and always dated the wrong men, and it was just a rolling scenario of life. And she used to take me shoplifting, and I'd do cleaning jobs and all sorts of things we do to survive. And it was pretty clear at an early age that I had, a lot of resilience, and didn't realise my life wasn't normal until I was probably about 12, 13. I thought that this was how a certain group of individuals lived, because those were the people that my mum were friends with.
Cool.
So, it was always, a stolen leg of lamb or a £10,000 fur coat. There's always something happening. So it was really interesting. I'm going to have to stop. Someone is just on my front door.
Okay, no worries. Cool. Go on then.
So in a funny sort of way, we went from, my mum had people come around that would sell meat, the leg of lamb, or she would steal the 10,000 fur coat to order. I always had the best clothes, cashmere sweaters, but they always had holes in where the tags were. And for years I wore 2 left feet because they were the only shoes that my mum could nick. And I never went to school because our names always changed. Every time she met a man, she would take his name. So I've been House, Hooper, Holman. I mean, I've had House, Hooper, I've had Set Power. I've had so many names. And I think in those days, the ILEA weren't really, tracking children down or moving. And I was always surprised that I never went into care. We always managed to navigate that. But one of the fearful, the things that kind of made me fearful was my mum always used to say, if we get caught, I'm going to prison and you're going into care. So we need to make sure that we don't get caught. And so we have to look the part. We have to look like we belong, and we have to have our attitude and our confidence about us. And so she taught me lots of other life skills that I suppose a lot of people are learning through this lockdown, right? People are learning, children learn, they're engaging, confidence issues have probably gone up, anxiety's probably gone up as well. So I kind of went through that whole childhood, and it wasn't until...
So did that give you more confidence, you think?
I think the fact that we never got caught probably gave me more confidence. I think that I was always scared because, I was around a lot of bullies, and I was, went through some physical and emotional abuse. But I didn't know any difference. So I suppose what it built was not necessarily confidence, but resilience. And that, I always used to say to myself when it was a bad day, people always think, what is this line here? That's actually a scar from, being attacked by someone's dog. And I've got, from abuse, basically. But I was just always in the wrong time at the wrong place. The people that my mum hung around with. I love my mum very much. People always say, well, you must really, hold a grudge against your mum. But I don't. She was just doing the best she could with what she had. And so my life was very different. And I always wanted to be something, because I think that we were always around beautiful things. They might not have been ours, and we lived in many different homes in many different places, but there were beautiful things all the same. And so,
and you always felt loved. There was that there.
Yeah, there was no lack of love, and maybe her love was you know, a hug and a new cashmere sweater, and being able to stay up a party, because every weekend there were parties in our house. So you know, my mum used to dance. I used to watch my mum get ready. She loved perfume and makeup and all those beautiful things, and I think that's where I was growing up when Dynasty and Dallas and all of those series were, women doing stuff, making things happen. And so I always used to say to my mum, I want to be a beauty consultant or an air hostess. Now, bearing in mind that my vocabulary from a British perspective was awful, the English language, I couldn't really command that at all. It was very small, and I didn't speak any languages. I was never going to be an air hostess, but I figured that the beauty girls had, great shoes, nice hair, looked good. And that was enough, for me, and the security of being able to buy my own food. So that was kind of my aspiration. And then I got my first role in a chemist, thanks to a friend that didn't want to unpack boxes. And she said, look, the pharmacists, we're all busy behind the counter issuing prescriptions, etc. And the pharmacist wants someone to come in and unpack boxes and clean. Do you fancy doing it? And I was like, yeah, because this was my opportunity to earn my own money. And so
how old were you then, Tracey?
I was nearly 14, so I'd been there for some time, and I said to him, look, how do I get to do the prescriptions and stand behind the counter? And he said, well, Tracey, and I was very straight talking. I said, I can't read and write, but I can match stuff up. If you show me the words, I can match it. And he said to me, Tracey, I'd love to have you behind the counter because you're so good with the customers, and our retail sales have gone up because I'd sell an extra 2 jars of baby food, or and I was constantly moving the shop around, cleaning it, taking deodorants from that side of the shop to this side, and facing up. Everything was always clean and lovely, and all the customers used to say, "Oh, love coming in here, it's all tidy, and and you're so helpful." And
do you think you got, and I said, your way of working with people and being that personal from the upbringing and being around all the different people with your mum?
Yeah, I think that because I'd one day we'd be in Harrods or Selfridges or Marks and Spencer's or John Lewis or wherever, and I was never fearful of those places or those people. And so kind of I've always been able to talk to people because I've never been insecure in that sense. So I've always had this the ability to speak. And also to kind of say I don't know or I don't understand, so ask questions. So I've never really felt uncomfortable in a room. And in that sense,
important, isn't it?
Yeah, and
ask questions and having the confidence
to speak up. And so I think when he said, look, you can't read and write, but I'm really surprised you can't do that. So I went to my brother's grandma, because obviously my grandma had died, and I said to her, who she was an accountant for Aiden and Young, and I used to stay at her house every weekend as I got older because it was safer for me. It was a better environment for me to be in. And I said to her, I need you to teach me how to read and write because I want to work in the pharmacy area of this Kingswood chemist in West Norwood. And so she said, all right, I'll teach you. So I went from reading, Janet and John books to Jackie Collins and Julie Cooper and, all these kind of, Lucky Sant'Angelo type books. And I just thought, this is my opportunity. I've got to kind of find a way out, really. And I was earning my own money, and I knew that. And I used to ring the council every day trying to get a flat. As soon as I reached my 16th birthday, they gave me a flat. And my 18th birthday, just to get rid of me, we were over. There was too many of us in the flat. My mum's partner then was quite abusive to me. He was very violent. And there was my mum had a great friend, a lady called Tracey, who's still very supportive of me, and she used to allow me to come and stay with her, and she would feed me when I was younger because we hardly ever had food in the house. So it wasn't until my mum started dating Gary that she actually cooked a meal, because that wasn't her priority. Her priority was partying. And I mean, she really was a fun human being. She loved going clubbing. She'd say I'm going out for a packet of fags and not come back for 2 days and leave me with, I'm a 9-year-old and I'm left with a 1-year-old, which was my brother Neil, who sadly is no longer here. But he was a recovering heroin addict and had a massive heart attack 3 years ago in July. So, so we've kind of gone through, this process of him going one way and me going another, me not knowing what I wanted, but also picking up great people to support me and guide me through my life. So Tracey was a real beacon of hope for me. You know, she got me my first job in a cash and carry, and, you know, really helped me progress and gave me confidence. And I went from being, you know, a checkout girl to working in the buying office, and that's where I understood, you know, margins, cost of goods. I used to write out, you know, goods received notes, good dispatch notes, I mean, you know, everything by hand, and kind of learned that. But I still always had this goal to be a beauty advisor. And then one day I was reading the evening news, and this little article said, you know, beauty consultants wanted, be at the Westbury Hotel at Bond Street from, I think it was from 6:30 till 9 p.m. to be interviewed. And I said to Tracey, oh, they're looking for beauty consultants. And she said, I'll take you up there. She used to have a Fiat Panda. And I said, well, I've got nothing to wear. So she said, well, you've got that dress that we share. So I borrowed, you know, the dress that we share, and a pair of her shoes, because I had no shoes that were appropriate. She's a size 3 and I'm a size 6. So I was so desperate for that role that I squeezed my feet into these shoes. I don't even know how I walked down Bond Street, practically on two. But I was so desperate for it, and I got that role. And you know, I started at Debenhams of Croydon, and you know, met some really lovely women, all from a very different. I was terrified. I mean, you know, but I knew that if I didn't ask for help and support, and if I didn't tell people what I didn't know, then I wasn't going to progress, because no one would know, and I would just feel uncomfortable about life. And so,
were you confident?
Yeah, I was. The thing is, I always looked good, you know, because, you know, I had beautiful hair. I was, you know, I always had lovely shoes. I always had nice clothes. Not enough of them, but I always had all of those things. So I had that inner confidence, and I had the passion. And I always remember, you know, the pharmacist telling me, you know, you talk to people, you're really good with customers. I'm surprised. You know, and I'd always, at the cash and carry, at Booker's Cash and Carry in South Wimbledon, you know, everybody loved me because I always talked to everyone. And I spent most of my life only ever surrounded by adults, you know, apart from my brother and then my sister and a few people that knew me. Most of my time was spent with adults. So I knew how to communicate with adults.
I think it makes a difference and helps, doesn't it? I grew up in a pub, and it's exactly the same for me. So just surrounded constantly by adults, and well, they weren't acting like grown-ups all the time, but being around people like that, it definitely gives you an ability to talk to people, I think.
Yes, I think. And also when you have been threatened, or you've gone through difficult situations through neglect or abuse, you know, verbal or otherwise, you kind of build this resilience, and also you get this second sense. So the intuition, you kind of start to read people's body language. And I think because I couldn't read and write, and, you know, wasn't educated from an early age, I think that I nurtured my common sense and my sense of what was next, and to anticipate people's body language to keep myself safe. I mean, you know, I figured out when we lived just off of Camden Square, Murray Street, you know, I used to take I took my bedroom door handle apart, because I knew that, you know, if I could do that, no one could get into my room. So, you know, there were things that you kind of, you know, you just find a way. And I've always found a way. And I don't know if that is, you know, the divine, or the fact that, you know, I just, you know, people always say to me, oh, you must be and a lot of people say it to me, no, you must be really uncomfortable, you know, with your life, because you're not in a permanent role, you're kind of advising, you're divorced, you know, you're living in a rented house in the middle of nowhere, how do you feel? And I say, well, you know, the worst things that could ever happen to me apart from dying already have. So I'm just going to keep going and see what life, you know, brings, because that is my mindset.
But it's funny when people, I'm always fascinated when people feel the need to highlight some of what they perceive to be negatives that are going on with someone's lives, whereas another person's viewpoint could be completely different to your own anyway. Because the fact you're renting may be a fantastic opportunity for you and gives you freedom because you're not stuck down in one place. So it's really interesting, isn't it? But even just focusing on those areas, there's still another 50, 60, 70 amazing things going on in your life anyway. The fact that you're healthy and you're in an industry that you love.
You have to be fit, confident. You know, I don't feel, you know, you know, debilitated in any shape or form, actually. Of course, there's lots of uncertainty around us right now, but that's everybody going through that, right? And there'll be mornings when you just kind of think, I don't really want to get out of bed because the news is negative or something's happened. And especially with what's happening right now, I mean, you know, I'm really moved by everything. But the fact of the matter is that the show must go on with or without you. So you can choose to participate in life or not. So, you know, that is my view. And I think that having that common sense and, you know, knowing that my resilience is high, and that, you know, I do things to look after myself and my mental health, and I continue to remain connected. These are all life skills that I've acquired as you know, as I've aged, and I've never forgotten where I've come from, and I've never felt the need to dampen down what I've been through either, because I you know, in the hope that it inspires somebody else, that, you know, if I can, you know, learn how to read and write, work my way through the whole beauty industry, doing many different roles over many different years, and working with amazing people, choosing amazing people, often way smarter than me, to work with me to build a brand. You know, I feel like, well, you know, what's the next chapter? Bring it on, and just,
Well, it all makes you, doesn't it? You wouldn't be the person you are now without all the background. Yeah, fascinating.
When I read my mum's eulogy, because sadly she passed away 7 years ago, and you know, it was a very strange time for me. She was diagnosed on the 5th of June, and she died on the 9th of August. And I took, you know, my sister and I took the decision to look after her. She didn't want to die in hospital, so we agreed that, you know, I would do the day shift, and my sister would do the night shift, because she lived at home with my mum. And, you know, a couple of times we had to take her to a hospice because her kidneys, you know, she was struggling to pass water and things. But she said, you know, whatever you do, I don't want to die here. You have to get me home. And so, you know, we moved heaven and earth to kind of get her back to her house. And I said to her, you know, is there anything you want to do? You want to write any Christmas cards? Or anything? I didn't like sending them when I was alive. I'm certainly not going to send them. And she was so straight talking, and I said to her, you know, what's your biggest regret? Come on, you know, you can tell me now. What is it? And she said, you know, one of my biggest regrets is that I wasn't the mother to you that you deserved, and, you know, I didn't understand. And I kind of think to myself, oh my God, she carried that around. You know, I was 47. She carried that around her entire life, and for me to hear it, I mean, I remember coming out of King's College Hospital at the time when it was just as she was diagnosed, and I remember just sobbing and sitting in my car, and I think my car park fee ended up being about 25 quid, because I just was there crying. And I'm not a big crier. It takes a lot to make me cry. A sad movie, but things that happen to me, I rarely cry about. And I just sobbed, and it was almost like I was releasing 47 years.
Yeah, you will have been. Yeah.
And you know, and then when she passed away, it was challenging. And I you know, when I was writing the eulogy, I kind of said to myself, you know, I used to think that I was everything in spite of my mum, but actually I'm everything because of my mum. You know, she defined who I became as an individual. And yes, there were challenging times, and bad things often happen to very normal people. But the fact of the matter is that you have to keep going, and you have to build that resilience. And you have a duty of care to yourself to be the best version of you, to be able to move forward. And you have to, if you need assistance or you need to talk to somebody, actually people are generally kind. Most people are kind, and they will listen. But, you know, we mustn't lose. And I hope that, you know, what we're moving into today is an element of more kindness and more wellness and more self-care and more humility and more compassion, because it wasn't always shown to me, but I did have some amazing people that helped me out along the way. And that was because I chose to speak up. Yeah. Because I was ashamed of what had happened to me.
There's a lot of strength in being vulnerable, that's for sure. A lot of good can come out of that. So going back to the job after so you got the job.
I got the job, and I worked on counter, and I knew everything about my customers, because, you know, I'm a social being, right? So you know, I knew what cars their husbands drove, where they played golf, when they had a row because they come in and spend more money on their products. In those days, we used to
remember this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I retained that sort of stuff. So we used to call them, and we used to write to them. We wasn't, you know, there was no kind of texting or, you know, apps or anything. And you know, my customers loved me, and I loved them. And, you know, I had one of the highest I was one of the youngest clinic consultants on counter, and I had one of the highest average unit sales in the Southeast.
Oh,
because, you know, I enjoyed working, you know, with my customers. I loved these women. You know, they had money to spend. They were free. They were, in my mind, you know, they were the ladies that, you know, just done so well in their lives. You know, they were successful business women, or, you know, they were, you know, great support to their husbands. And so I kind of, you know, I progressed from there, and I went as assistant department manager. Oh, prior to that, I went off to the West End. I did special events and promotions, and then came back to Estee Lauder as a counter manager, and then went to the Orders department store group and went through the process there. That's why I really learned about margin and profitability, because I was told that if I'm for every 1% additional profit we delivered from a threshold, I got an additional 1% bonus, up to 35% of my salary. So I was on that because that was easy for me to understand. Yeah. And that's how I learned about profitability and how to drive it. And I always say that if you want to incentivize them and you know, and infuse people, tell them the reason why. Tell them why you need to do this and what you need it for. Yeah. And so for me, that worked for me. And we sold everything. I mean, I used to sell testers, and, you know, we do a sale to staff. It would all get run through the till. I mean, everything that I could do. I used to just go in early on a Saturday morning and separate all the Elnet hairsprays, the small pocket size to the giant size, to get an extra. I made an extra 99p for every one that I sold, right? Yeah. So I knew exactly how to, you know, found a way to deliver more profit, and we were really successful as a beauty hall. And then from there, I went to travel retail.
Yourself, or was there was there anyone you were working with or looking up to during those roles you had, where you're like, well, they know what they're doing, I'm gonna...
I would always latch on to someone that would be able to help me and support me, and that I would learn from. So at that point, it was a lady called Eileen Border who really taught me. And I say to her, I can't figure out how to work these numbers. She keep looking at them. The longer you look at them, the easier it'll be to figure out. But she was South African, and she was an amazing woman. And I'm still in touch with her today. She's back in Cape Town, and I'm friends with her, you know, her son and her daughter, and their partners. And she was an amazing role model. And each time I've taken on a role, you know, when I was at travel retail, I went to Terminal 4. I was so desperate to get into duty free because I figured it was the fastest paced business. And actually, Orders, who I worked for, were in duty free, but they said, "Oh no, we don't bring that many women into that business. It's long nights. You know, it's long opening hours. There's a different pressure. It's fast paced." You know, the people that are in there are the people that grow up within the roles. We don't bring outsiders from other department stores or from our stores because they don't get the pace. So I thought, well, all right, well, I'm going to find a job there. And again, the Evening Standard delivered. It was Evening Standard then, not the Evening News. This great role that said people wanted for Forte Retail Services at Terminal 4 Heathrow. Off I went, got the job. I remember the HR director, her name was Anne. I think it was Anne Young, but anyway, Anne saying to me that, you know, we're going to hire you because you've got fire in your belly. And it was really great. And then from there, I introduced Eileen, and she became the beauty manager at Gatwick Airport because that was closer. But I commuted from Southeast London to Heathrow every single day. You know, and I just had a little boy. So, you know, Josh was a baby. I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and off I'd go. And then from there, I built the business up and was promoted from Terminal 4 to Terminal 1, which then was the biggest beauty hall in Europe. It took you know, millions, and about 25 million. You know, I had 100 members of staff, 18 supervisors. You know, 3 managers. Opened at 5 a.m., closed at 1 a.m. You know, it was crazy times. We were responsible for, you know, so much more than you would be today because we managed the open to buy, built, and actually all that I learned in the general retail area, I just brought that into duty free. So, you know, I pushed the counters.
With the fire in your belly as well. I love that bit because I was reading, there was a bit by Simon Sinek, and he was saying, don't hire people and try and motivate them. Hire motivated people and inspire them. And I completely get it. And when you were going for the interview, did you feel the need to try and demonstrate you got fire in your belly, or was that just naturally?
I think I was just a feisty young woman with an attitude, and of course I'd had lots of success. So I could
Yeah.
substantiate what I'd achieved. So I had this kind of, look, this is what I've done here, this is what I've done here, and I knew that. I knew my pitch, I knew what I wanted to do. And then when I went there and I just brought all the standards and disciplines, I mean, I said to the team, we're going to treat these customers like we might even see them again and watch them buy more. Because before they were just totally disregarded because it was, well, they fly through here once or twice.
Transactional.
So we just kind of put in all the procedures, and we went, in 1 year, I went from 18 million to 21 million, 3 million increase. Just, I had 11 shops. I used to walk miles. I had the Irish Centre and, the VIP lounges, and it was amazing. It was an amazing role. And I think that from there, I was headhunted to join the Donna Karan Beauty Company because they wanted someone that worked in retail and duty free and understood both markets. Okay. And so off I went, and suddenly I thought I was going to be.
How old were you at this point?
I was about 26, 27.
Wow, amazing.
And I thought that, I was going to be, the sales manager, and actually ended up running the company, reporting into Ernst & Young, going backwards and forwards to New York. I'd never been to America apart from Disneyland. Suddenly I was wearing Donna Karan clothes, and anybody that knows Donna Karan clothes will know that a suit is £2,000. Even then, I'd coats that would cost $5,000, and I was totally, suddenly I was elevated again into this area. I was flying, business class to New York, and get limousines and smelling gorgeous and feeling great.
It's like that here in Cleckheaton, actually, constantly getting chauffeured around. What was that time frame from joining Donna Karan to then running the business?
Straight away, because there was no one in the
headhunted to literally run it.
I looked after England, Channel Islands, duty free and domestic. So launching in Harvey Nichols. It was the first brand outside of MAC, I think, that was doing more than 1 million a year. We were selling hundreds and hundreds of bottles of perfume a week. Donna Karan.
People around you, Tracey, were they a lot older than you at the time? If you were only...
Well, my vice president was about 3 or 4 years older than me in New York, and she was fantastic. She was ex-Ralph Lauren. They were very driven. I had an office in my home. And I cried every day. I cried every day at Donna Karan because there was so much to learn and so much to understand. Caroline Neville, who was our chair,
was that just like overwhelmed?
Overwhelmed, and how am I going to go in and present to Harrods and tell them, if you want our brand, you can have it, but you're going to pay to build your own counter. You're going to make a contribution to my staff, and guess what? You're going to have to pick the stock up at New York at the dock. They were like, "What? Who are you?" So they were all, and these were powerful women. The buyers and the management team. I was terrified of these women because I'd gone off to duty free, but my last role was being intimidated by these powerful women that that made the decision on whether or not you got an order. And they were a powerhouse. And actually, as I got to know them, I realised equally human and real and honest. And Hilary Dart, who was then went on to be the president of Calvin Klein Beauty, but she was the head of Selfridges buying, and she became a great mentor to me. Caroline Neville, who was our PR company for Donna Karan, she had Caroline Neville Associates then. She's now the president, the chairwoman of the president of CW UK. Basiliki's the chairwoman. She was a great mentor to me. So the women kind of really stepped up because I kind of said, look, I don't understand this, or I don't know this, or I've never done this before. And so I had great supporters.
Amazing how receptive people are, isn't it, when you start asking questions and just showing that vulnerability again, that you're honest with them and you're honest with yourself. Like, can you help me out? And I just wish more people would do it, because there's some. I try and say it to people here actually in the team, because they try and make it look like it's a weakness for asking for help, and it's like, no, it's a strength to ask for help, because it shows that you actually have confidence in what you're doing and things like that. So I always
it shows care. It shows that you care because you want to deliver better. So people that kind of don't deal with what they don't know should deal with what they don't know, because as you acquire more knowledge, you are able to do more and learn more and be more, and it's very satisfying. And I think that I suppose again, not having that schooling. I mean, I did 2 years of schooling in my entire life. I actually remember bumping into my my form teacher, who was a guy called Mr. Hersey, and when I was at Norwood Girls, of which I attended about 6 months, and he used to laugh and joke. He'd say, "Oh, decided to turn up, pop in," because every now and then I'd say, "Well, I'm going back to school," Mum would go, "Oh yeah, that'll last a week," and it did. And I'd go into school. I always in my secondary school, I always had a space, but I think they just didn't bother. And he said to me, he said, "You've got a mouth on you, Tracey." He said, "You'll clearly do something." And I remember him coming into Order's department store and bumping into him. And I was immaculately dressed because we got a great dress allowance. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I work here. I'm the beauty manager." And he was like, "So you did all right in the end? I always knew you were a bit of a cheeky person." I said, "Well, we all learn differently, don't we?" And he said, "Yeah, we do. We do." And he said, "I'm really pleased that you've found a space." And of course, I thought that I'd made it then. I thought this was as good as it got. And of course, each time I got another opportunity, it just got better and better and better. And I met more amazing people.
Because it sounds like opportunities have always come up, but you've always just grabbed everyone that's come your way.
Yeah, I don't think. I don't kind of grab them so much now. I'm really considered about what I do.
Years, definitely.
Yeah, but when I was younger, it was like if I saw it, for me, it was a message to me. Seeing that little ad in the Evening News or the Evening Standard that time, that was like, that is meant to be. That you're meant to be there, and you have to find a way. And thankfully, I've had people that have supported me, helped me, and believed in me. And so I've got those opportunities. And then from Donna Karan, I went to Aveda. I joined as the National Sales Manager for Salon Division, so a sector that I'd never done. We were delivering success. I was very involved in the culture of the organisation, because at Donna Karan, you ate, slept and dreamt. You lived the brand, from what you wore to how you smelled to the lifestyle that you chose. And so that's where I kind of really learned about a brand and its culture, which is what we see of brands today. They create their philosophy, their ethos, their reason for being, and they live that life. And their people live that.
Tracy?
Sorry?
What made you make the change then from Donna Karan to Aveda? Was that because
I was exhausted. I was working so hard on running Donna Karan and delivering success, and I was just on this treadmill that I thought, I can't. I can't. I had a small child. My marriage started to go wrong, and I just thought, I can't sustain this.
Yeah, it's kind of like that city. I mean, the city make as much money as you can really quickly, working all the hours God sends, and then go and do another career shortly after, when you just done that. Okay. So then, were you headhunted again, or did you just?
Oh, no. That was the good old Evening Standard. Little.
Oh, that was the Aveda one. Another.
Yeah. So the Donna Karan one, I was headhunted, and the Clinique one was in the Evening News, and then the Duty Free one was in the Evening News, Evening Standard. I think that was then. I think it just switched.
Right.
And so so 3 roles. The London daily evening paper kind of gave me an opportunity. I thought it was a sign. So I joined there as the national sales manager, and was working with the sales director, and I just didn't click with him. And so I went to George and Ruby, and I just said, look, you've got something amazing here. This brand is fabulous, but we're just not connecting. And can I write a business plan as to what I would do if I was running the company? And if you like it, then I want you to I want you to terminate the sales director's role, and I want you to give me the opportunity. And if you, I'm off. And I,
Where did you learn to write a business plan?
Sorry?
Where did you learn to write a business plan?
Well, I think that it was just because at Donna Karan, we learned a lot about decks. We always had presenters. So, everything was about objectives. And of course, I had to present how I was going to make the numbers. And so that's in my idea, that was a business plan. This is our philosophy, this is our ethos, this is our retailers, and these are where I expect the numbers to come from. And this is what I'm going to do. So I did the same at AVD Cosmetics to George and Ruby, and they gave me a chance. And, I started to run the company, and we went from 800,000 to 10.8 million.
Over what space of time was that?
That was 4 years.
That's not bad, is it?
Yeah. So, but I think that the
The
UK
business
was,
plan worked then.
yeah, it worked, and I think,
Definitely.
you know, got some great people to work with. There was an amazing team. You know, warehousing was efficient, and the thing is, what you know, I suppose back in my travel retail days, I kind of recognised that I would only be as good as the worst person that worked for me. So I had to help lift everybody, whatever I could do to make everybody better, to make everybody more accountable, to make a difference. That's what was going to deliver success. And so, you know, at Aveda, we managed to hire some really, really great people. We did some amazing things, and you know, the stock was our own, so we were never out of stock on counter unless we were out of stock in our warehouse. We had salon division, which was spas and hotels, and also hairdressing salons. You know, we had retail, we had QVC, so we had every channel, and there was a lot to learn and do, but we had great people. George had already recruited some really amazing business managers and territory managers and store people, and we just evolved and grew, and I got to work with some amazing people. And I was really sad and I said to George, you know, horse is going to sell. He's going to sell to Estee Lauder. I can feel it. And he said, no, he's not. He's never going to sell. He's an environmentalist. I said, I promise you he's going to sell. And then he announced that he'd sold the US business, and that the US, that Lauder wanted to acquire our distribution business in the UK because they love what we've done. And Leonard will tell you today, the reason he bought Aveda was because of the impact that we've made in the UK, because we'd opened lifestyle stores, we put it in cool department stores. You know, we were in Liberty's, as Liberty's new beauty hall just arrived. Wow. You know, we did some great things, and of course they were concessions, so they were our staff, our product, and it just. And, you know, the stores help to build our counters, which, again, it doesn't work like that normally. And so, and I suppose all of that came from the element of me understanding how Donna Karan did things so differently. And so we managed to deliver success, and we grew, and we were, you know, we had fun. I mean, I can honestly say that I've never had as much fun with working with any company as I did with my Aveda team. And Horst Rackelbacker, who was the creator and founder of Aveda, used to call my team the Jehovah's Witnesses. He said they're like, which is the culture that I kind of learned at Donna Karan, is that, you know, you're a team, you're united. I mean, I still have the photograph of my team, you know, in on the desk in my office, because we were so connected and so powerful. And I think that what organizations should recognize and should honor is that everything is about the people that you work with.
Yeah.
And you will never have a true brand story or positioning if you're not all aligned. And so one of the first things that I always say when, you know, I go into a company is, if you don't like what you're doing, just come and tell me, because I'm well connected. I'm not going to take it personally. I will help you find the right job than have you here being unhappy working, you know, with us. So, you know, tell me, and let's be honest. And I think that I've always had an open door policy. You know, I've never kind of sat, you know, I've always shared an office with a team of people coming and going. I've always wanted to be part of the gang. And of course, I'm very straight talking. So, you know, I can equally be hard and take a hard line, but it's always done in a reasonable approach to doing what's right for the business. It's not personal. And so people know that's how I work. And the
trust and, that safe environment, you can tell it how it is, though, can't you? Because people know it's not personal, because you've got the relationship bit that goes with it. It's like, this isn't about personalities. This is just, we need to do this. Everyone's being held to a high account, but equally you've got a lot of trust and respect going on.
Yeah, and you've got to keep going. And so, you know, kind of learning that and then taking that forward with every role that I've done. And then from there, I went to, you know, I met my second husband. I had Ava. I opened a couple of delis with him because he'd been in his family business for 20 years. But I knew that food and working with my husband was not going to work. So I went back to George and I joined the Urban Retreat, and we, you know, delivered success, and we grew the business, and we had an East Irish Deli Cafe in Harrods. From there, I went to Marks and Spencer's, did the Marks and Spencer's beauty offering second phase, because I'd always wanted to work for Marks and Spencer's. What I didn't tell you, as soon as I learned how to read and write, the first thing I did is I bought myself a Let's diary, And every year I used to write in the things that I wanted to achieve. So in that diary, the first time off was to earn 25,000 a year, to always have food in my cupboard, to own a mobile phone and a Cartier briefcase. I can't even tell you why I wanted a Cartier briefcase.
Did you get the Cartier briefcase?
Yeah, I did. And I just figured it was all part of this, I don't have it anymore. I can't believe I didn't keep it, but, it probably, as handbags and stuff go. I should buy another one, actually. I should buy a second-hand one.
Nostalgia.
Just nostalgia. But that was, I've always kept those goals of things that I wanted to achieve, and so I always wanted to work. I still do it now. I still do it on my phone. When I got to 50, there was only one thing left on it, because I kind of decided that after I had Ava, I wasn't going to add more stuff to it and put myself under more pressure. And so I would just work on clearing the list. And that's what I did. There was one thing left that I couldn't influence, and that was actually to get an MBE. So, I don't know why I figured Ava wanted that, but I just thought thing to have.
Yeah, I'm into goal setting. I think it's really important. It doesn't have to work for everyone, does it? But I like having the goals set down. Sometimes I find it really. I suppose when you were looking back, because sometimes just the habit of, or the process of writing down a goal. I like journaling, actually, and I can often write down goals, but I don't look at it on a daily basis all the time. Sometimes I just wrote them down and that's it.
Yeah.
And then I end up referring to it. Some bigger goals I've got on. I'm a bit obsessed with whiteboards, so I've got some whiteboards kicking up around the house, and some have like clear goals about my personal life and the business that we're in. But and they're just things that I just walk past now and again. But it's so funny. You look back at it, and you're like, oh, we have done that. And that's why I'm keen to write them up in certain offices around the business as well. I think it's really important.
I think it really is. And I think that, the thing is that when it's in your head, it's just, it's not a plan. There's no, so you think about it and you say you're hoping for it to happen.
Yep.
When you write it down, you're still hoping. And when you start to tell people, you're making it happen. And so, you have to be able to put it out there as well. And again, you'll be surprised how many people want to help you achieve your goals. And so I always say, if you keep it up here and you don't write it down, there's no plan to deliver. And then as soon as you start talking about what your goals are, then you're in a position to actually make it happen. And
well, it's crazy, the amount of people that then start popping up saying, oh, I was speaking to so-and-so, and they've told me about your goal. I think I can help. And you're like, no way, I'd never have heard from you if I hadn't have actually just been talking about my goal. It's crazy.
So it is having those courageous conversations and being able to, and not seeing shame in, and everybody wants to achieve stuff. Everybody wants to, that's how we move forward, right? And I hope that, as we move forward, there's going to be a lot more practice of self-care and wellness, and not just living for stuff. Because we don't really need any more stuff. And I think this pause has made us realise that, there's only so much that any of us need for living. And to value, the fact that we are here and we have a very nice life, and be grateful and have a lot of gratitude. But I do think that goal setting is a fun thing to do. And actually, I think that more people should do it with their children at an early age. And again, I'm really, excited to see what this generation that's actually been, I don't have small children, but have been locked down with parents and, have enjoyed lunches together and movie time and being out in the, this is, everyone for the last 12 months has almost gone to Steiner school in a sort of way, or, being at Montessori, because we're learning through different elements. And I think that it would be really great in 20 years time to see those young people and come back and see how different they are. And of course there is going to be a little bit of distress on being locked down and being away from friends, but we've actually built a generation that's going to be a little more resilient, because we've all been thrown into uncertainty, and the reason it doesn't scare me being in that space is because I spent most of my life there.
I agree with everything you've just said. We homeschool our children, so it's been interesting seeing that. But they've had to do stuff differently because they don't learn everything just like in a home classroom. It's kind of facilitated. We take them to different groups, so it's probably hit them even harder. Because a lot of people said, "Are you finding this normal?" And we're like, "No, not really," because they're used to going out of the house every single day to different groups of friends. But the interesting thing's been how things like the Xbox and Fortnite, and so headsets and communicating that way with friends, and just seeing my 8-year-old son start networking, meeting other friends through other friends, and then leadership skills through what he's doing, how he's putting together teams of kids much older as well. I find the whole thing fascinating, how kids are learning different skills. I think that's the big thing for me. I think it's incredible. So with the gold setting in the Let's diary, you ended up at Marks and Spencer's.
Well, yeah, I suppose in a funny sort of way. A great lady called Jo Jenkins, who was at M&S and then left and went to Next, and then came back to M&S as a director of lingerie and women's wear and beauty, was a friend of a friend, and my amazing friend Bruce Langlands, who was at Harrods, and then who obviously I met through Harrods. And he always says, "I'll never forget you." He said, "You were one of the few people at Harrods that said, I hear you're in food and beverage, you know, we've got a small cafe, let's have a chat. You know, he said, you always reached out to people." He said, "And I've watched you do that. I mean, we've been friends, you know, since 2016. So, well, actually before that, 2008. So, no, 2010. And so he kind of says, you know, you've always done that, and it's one of the qualities I love about you. And you know, just reaching out for no reason other than, you know, just get to know you and learn." And he came back to me and said, "You know, Jo's got, you know, she's got this job and she wants a view on beauty." And I said that, you know, you should have a chat with her because you understand. And I know you always said that, because he worked at Marks and Spencer's with Jo many years ago. He said you always wanted to work for M&S. So, you know, have a chat. And at this time I'd left Aromatherapy. I was working with private equity companies on acquisition. I was doing charity work. So I was working with the Prince's Trust, Action for Children, Beanstalk, the Terence Higgins Trust, and just keeping myself busy in this point where I felt the need to give back. And, you know, my mum was obviously well as well. But, you know, I'd kind of, you know, as much as people say, oh, maybe your life wasn't so privileged when you were growing up, I felt truly blessed to get to 45 and, you know, still have all my own teeth, not be an addict, you know, have a very good life, have brought up 2 lovely children that were both very, you know, academic and able and, you know, smart. I kind of felt the need to give back. So I went and did voluntary work with the charities, with mentoring or joining women's groups to help raise funds and awareness. And Beanstalk, I used to go off and talk at their events because obviously I was a child that couldn't read and write. And they always used to say, "We love putting you on the stage because you reduce the audience to tears and then they get more money," because I talk about, you know, how hard it was for me not being able to read and write. But, you know, at a very young age, I decided that I was not going to be ashamed of what happened to me. I was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. I was a victim of circumstance, and I wasn't going to let it define me. And so I've always been good at talking about my story. And, you know, I want to deliver a book as well, you know, which I've, you know, working on, because I think that, you know, overcoming adversity gives you strength, and not everybody has the ability to not feel sorry for themselves. But I think that if we could help people to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and not everybody makes it. You know, my brother, you know, chose, we came from the same mum, right? We had different dads, but my brother chose a very similar life to my mum, and he didn't make it. And that will, you know, that probably haunt me for the rest of my life.
That was one of the questions I noted down. I was going to go back to it. You clearly both went on 2 different paths. Was your brother still really happy with his? I know it was a heroin addict.
He died. He died
at the time of when he was alive and living. Was he still happy?
He was always a little bit of a victim. You know, this shouldn't have happened to me. But he was also an adrenaline junkie. You know, he did free running before free running even existed as a sport, because he was always running away from the police, whether it be in a car or, you know, across 3 blocks of flats. I mean, he just loved it. And my mum loved the buzz of all of that, you know, and it doesn't make them bad people. It's just different. Yeah. But of course they live very much from day to day. And I couldn't bear that feeling of uncertainty. And, you know, my brother went on to have a daughter. I tried to adopt her. She, you know, I'm very close to her now. The woman that he had her with, she sadly passed away a few years ago. Oh. That was the path that, and my brother, you know, he came to work with me in different businesses that I had. He came to live with me. I tried to look after him when he was young, but I couldn't break that. You know, I couldn't change that process, and, you know, it will haunt me forever. But, you know, we all have our lives to live, and, you know, that's the journey that we have to go on. And there isn't a day go by when I don't think about him. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that we have to, some of us can save ourselves, but we can't always save other people. And that's a hard thing to learn.
Yeah.
But it is what it
You
is.
definitely can't help other people until you've helped yourself. And most people have their own stuff to be getting right themselves, don't they, at some point? So, yeah, it's tough.
But it was hard. I mean, I turn off his life support machine, and I stayed with him until he died. And my sister rang because I said, because she had young children, and I said, I'll stay and until the end. And I rang her and I said, he's gone. And she said, and then she rang me back 3 hours later and she said, where are you? And I said, I'm still here. And she said, what are you still doing there? And I said, I don't think I can move. I can't leave him. And I knew that I physically could not drive my car because I was just a wreck. And it was so hard. She actually came and got me. It was so hard to do. But, this is life, and bad things happen to all of us at different times. And we have to learn to cope with it, really.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't make it easy still, though, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
And where were you? How long ago was that? And where were you at the time, as in career-wise?
That was 3 years. That was 3 years ago, and I was with Aromatherapy Associates. So I was a Aromatherapy Associates.
And how did that? Did it with all that going on? I'd imagine it's hard not to affect what's going on in the career, or did you find it easy to, or could you?
I mean, I took some time off. I took a week off, and it was a struggle, and it was hard to deal with it. But then when we came out the other side, I kind of just threw myself into work and my family life, and just kept going, really, to busy myself. But yes, it was challenging, but I had a really supportive team. There was so much empathy and support from everybody. Most people that knew me well knew that I never hid the fact that I had this with my brother. So everybody knew that we were connected. But he was there, and I think that everyone has some sort of challenge in their life, right? And I've never hidden that. I've never not said that. My mum I did have this boyfriend once who used to say, oh, don't talk about things like that, people don't need to know about your old life. And it's like, but you do, because your old life is what defines your new life. And so that's what gives you courage and confidence and the ability to move forward. So I've always talked openly about what's happened to me and the situation that I've been in and how I've kind of come out of them. And sometimes I don't even know the answers. I just have because I kept going. And I love a quote, and I love the one, Churchill, when you're going through hell, keep going. It's just, these sort of things that come to you, that support you. And so, you just keep going. So I went to, from Marks and Spencer's, I went to Aromatherapy Associates and the refinery. And then a year ago, I left there to join Holland and Barrett as Director of Clean Beauty and Wellness, and stayed there for a very short period of time. And now I've come into just working on projects. I've been on the board of Cosmetic Executive Women as an executive director for the last 5 years, been on the board for 9. Wow. Originally, when I first started there, I used to mentor the small. Yeah, another goal. Yeah. Mentor small brands, help them, because we at Harrods Urban Retreat, we had a great space to launch niche from. We launched Glam Glow, lots of interesting brands. This Works was one of ours. So, I opened a body clinic in the Urban Retreat, which was all about wellness, dietitians, fitness, health, food delivery. So, and I suppose from my Aveda days, that's when I really got into clean beauty. It wasn't called clean beauty then, but it was looking at, the ingredients. And I remember Horst telling me that if I wore a normal lipstick every single day, I'd put 2 kilos of fat. I'd lay down 2 kilos of fat, of product that couldn't be digested. And so I started wearing.
Again.
Yeah, he was good at scaring us with product. But he used to say, if you wear a normal lipstick and you lick your lips, by the time you get to the end of your life, you'd absorb 2 kilos of chemicals.
Wow.
And so, and I learned to listen to founders and what defined them. And actually, I always thought, I'm never going to go back and work with another founder because they drive me mad. They're such hard work. But actually, I love their stories. I love articulating their stories. I love creating their stories with them.
Yeah.
And I love the passion that a founder brand brings to the table. Obviously, there are some that just do it for the money, and I tend not to work with those. But you know, I love the fact that they found a gap in the market and a desire to make, you know, to make change and to make a difference, or they've bought into, you know, a product concept that's actually improved their quality of life, and they want to share it with the world. I love those types of people, and I love working with them. And so I don't know where I'll be next, but I'm enjoying, you know, projects and working with clean and having an opinion on that sector. I've said for a long time that self-care is your first form of healthcare. So whatever that's a body cream, a bath oil, you know, keeping fit, looking at gut health, all of that is important to you. You know, if you want to do well, you have to be an athlete in your own life, and whatever that takes, you have to make that happen. And so, you know, I feel that I've been an athlete in my own life. And, you know, sometimes I've been a fat athlete and sometimes I've been a thin athlete, but I've always tried to be the best version of me so that, you know, I can cope with everything. You know, I've always worked. I mean, this is actually the most time I've ever had off. And when I left Holland & Barrett, I took a couple of months off, October, November, and a bit of December. And now suddenly, you know, we're all out of the, most of us are out of the picture, and we're just here. And I think, God, you know, I took less time off of work when I had my babies. I mean,
you're still really active on social media and everything else, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I'm still doing, you know, I'm doing podcasts and webinars and Insta Live.
It's funny that you see that as being off, just because it's not that.
Yeah, and to me it is off. You know, I'm not probably not using the mental capacity that I have to I'm reading, I'm engaging, I'm watching trashy TV. I've never really watched TV, so suddenly, you know, Netflix has become my best friend in the evening. Tonight I'm joining Josh, we've got a quiz night, so that'll be fun. But you know, so doing things differently. So today I've had the most time off of work ever. You know, we kind of like gappy days, and I've kind of discovered a little bit about myself. One thing I have discovered is I actually need more sleep than I ever thought I did. And I've, you know, I've learned
How much sleep do you get? Just out of interest.
So I always convinced myself that I needed no more than 5.5, 6 until Margaret Thatcher died.
yeah.
I realised, you know, Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, who always said they could survive on less than 4 hours sleep, they're not good role models. And then I started reading books on sleep, and so now I'm 7 or 8 hours, and when I get those 7 or 8 hours, I feel really, really good. But I'm always at, you know, I mean, now I wake up at 4:30, 4:45, and I go back to bed for a couple of hours because, you know, there's no need for me to be anywhere. It's not like I've got to commute into London, you know, from where I am today. So I'm Zooming, or I'm, you know, or I'm Teams or whatever. And so I've been given back a bit of time. You know, I won't stand up because I've got my tracksuit bottoms on and my Birkenstock sandals at the bottom. So I'm not kind of, you know, in my business dress. And so all these things have changed, and who would have thought, you know, all of that would have been a different way of living and being and doing. And I don't think that any of that is going to go back to how it was before. I don't, you know, when I was at Aromatherapy Associates, I was flying all over the world, having strategy meetings, working with, you know, customers, doing press events. You know, it was non-stop. And actually, I think, God, if we'd have had Zoom then, and, you know, and Teams, and were able to react in the way that we have through this, you know, lockdown, we could have done so much more, you know, so much more.
Yeah.
And when I see brands building communities on social media, you know, I'm looking at the way brands are talking to their consumers, and, you know, brands like Skin and Tonic and 5 Dot, and, you know, there's loads of them. I mean, Morley, Calmar, Le Bon, all of these brands, you know, Katie Brindle, there's so many great things happening where people are talking to their community and building that relationship and creating tribes. And I think we're never going to go back to just, you know, you've got to buy this product because it's cool. People are going to go, well, what does it mean to me? How does it make me feel? What does it say about me? I think that we're going to be asking a lot more questions. Is it sustainable? You know, am I helping someone somewhere else in the world? You know, people want to know more now, and I think it's really interesting. And I think that that interest has spiked more so because of where we're at today and where we've been heading. So I think that people will say, you know, what are the ingredients in there and how are they sourced and what do they do? And I think that the consumer of the future is going to be even more conscientious.
Yeah.
So I think that we're heading for really interesting times, and I certainly question everything that I put on my skin and in my stomach.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I've been chatting to a few people now. I love working with founders, by the way. It's something we're always going to do. I find them genuinely really interesting and inspiring, and I love hearing their stories. That's why I can't, sometimes I'm jumping around a bit, I can't get my head around. We worked with a couple a few years ago, and they employed someone really quick to do the sales role and go and talk to buyers. And buyers often have egos anyway, like we all do, and they want to talk to the person that's founded the company. I'm like, why aren't you in there selling your own brand? Why would you want to do it? So I was just trying to help some guys out.
Hard for some people to articulate, and I think that also, but I love buyers because they know what they're looking for, right? Yeah. They've got a shopping list, and you've got to make sure that you can fulfill the shopping list. We certainly had a shopping list at Marks and Spencer's, and I certainly had a shopping list at Urban Retreat of the brands that I wanted to bring in and how I wanted to be involved. And you don't always need the founder to articulate the story, but you do need to know what the game, what the brand is about. And I think sometimes people don't realize the power of that, of really putting into text what you stand for. And now actually putting that into social media and building your tribe. The thing is that is where the success lies, in building community, and that's what we did at Aveda, and I really learned about that.
The founders speak more passionately, don't they, than surely more than anyone else could, because they've lived and breathed it from its infancy.
Yeah, they do, but it's the team ultimately and down the end of the line that has to deliver. So as a founder, you have to make sure the team are motivated and inspired. And of course, if you're a new founder and there are things that you don't understand, like how to position to this retailer or where I want to be, from a digital perspective, when you look at all of those elements, sometimes they need outside help, but they still need to be a big part of the presentation, and they should make it their responsibility to be able to articulate that.
Do you think a balance will tip a little bit with the buyers and the brands themselves? Because I completely agree. It's been amazing through this, because the brands are definitely being able to, especially through e-commerce and social media, they're definitely spending all this time at the moment talking to the brands directly, and you can definitely really engage, and they're listening, and I find that amazing. Whereas sometimes when they've been talking directly to the buyers, they've often been swayed to do certain things. And I just wonder whether the brands now, seeing the success they're having on e-commerce and the way they're selling it, whether or not the buyers are going to struggle to continue to get as many brands knocking on their door to come into the stores themselves, or do you think that will always happen?
No, I think as long as bricks and mortar are there, I think that it will remain a success. I think that brands will go more direct to consumer, because it's important to evolve and develop and know who you're evolving and developing for. So, that is, retail is going to be redeveloped. It's going to come back because, people shop for not just for convenience, they shop because they enjoy it. It's almost a hobby. And so I don't think that is going to go away. I don't think that is going to change in any shape or form. I think that it will remain. It will just be different, and I don't know what different looks like yet. So I think that I would still trust. I still go into Liberty to look for something new and different, because I depend on those buyers to deliver that story. Or I love to go into all of the retailers and look at what they're doing, because each know their customer very well through data and connection. And so I love to see how that looks and how that evolves. But I do think that a brand has to think, at least 50% of my turnover needs to come from me. And how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And so I think, that is what will change. And I hope that we have founders thinking more about how they're going to build their community, because products need to be more than just a product for the sake of it. They need to make you see better, I don't know, ingredients, or it can't just be, I'm buying that because of what it says about me.
They need to have a clear purpose, don't they?
Yeah. That product, and I don't want to shout at brands, but I don't want to kind of be buying a product because of what the product says about me as a person. I want to be buying a product because of what it says about me as a human being.
Yeah.
my connection, and where those ingredients go, what how they're sourced, how they're delivered, how it makes me feel at the end, how it would make me feel if I gave it to somebody. I feel like that the kind of designer side of it for me personally is done. It's not, I don't need any products to make a statement about who I am.
Sure.
I want to be part of something that is meaningful and relevant. So if I'm going to use a good body moisturizer, I want to know, what is in that is going to make me feel good, and what is in there that's going to make somebody else feel good.
Yeah.
And the minimum of ingredients. And I always say, I am just an average person, and so whatever's happening to me, there are lots of other people out there thinking on the same, the same context, the same line, on the same path. So that is my view, really. And I think that we are going to see some massive changes. We are going to see people want less, and we're always going to see, people want more too. But that is their path, right? And that they can do whatever they want because they are who they are.
I love it. I know you said that you're keeping yourself, or you're not as busy, but active on social media. Where do people see what you're up to? How can they contact you? Or
well, they can follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I know that's how kind of we connected, right? But LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm in all those places. So you can put all of those up on as all my handles up. I often talk to people on Facebook that might say, I'm thinking about launching a men's grooming range, can you recommend, a manufacturer? Or I'm thinking about, changing how my store looks. Can you give me a designer? Of course, obviously being at Sheridan's, I'm working with us working together on the sustainability and the position in the future of beauty is very exciting. But, I think that it's really interesting. I never kind of ignore messages apart from the ones that say, how are you today? And I like your hair, or you're pretty.
Well, with all the millions of listeners to this podcast, you're going to be inundated.
Well, we do with more followers. So, I think that, and the thing is, I love to see what other people are doing as well. So I feel like, you build a community on social, and even on LinkedIn, I'm often, my idea is, I love scrolling through and seeing articles that people are posting and what they're saying and what they're doing. I use social media as an influence. I'd actually rather look at social media than listen to the BBC, if I'm honest.
I agree.
So, I feel that you get, and because my followers are quite eclectic, I feel like I get a good broad view of, what's happening.
You share a lot of the if you found an interesting article as well, you're one for sharing, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Tracey. That's been probably the longest chat I've had, and I could carry on going and going and going, but I've just glanced down at the time. So
thank you for the
I'll leave
opportunity.
it to Netflix.
Yeah, I've got quiz night tonight with Josh, so, and a couple more calls to do. So yeah, but
cool. Thanks so much.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
See you soon. Take care.
Yeah, bye.